So today is a celebration. It is a time of honoring, remembering, and honoring the birth of a man known as Jesus or Jesus many, many, many years ago. And he is known to the Unity and New Thought traditions as our great way shower. The great way shower. He is here as that which is the example for us to follow and to become more of that ourselves. We've heard in some of the traditional Christian is that waiting for the second coming. Well, you are the second coming. And I'll be talking more about what Christ consciousness is. However, first I want to talk to you about the birth of Jesus. See, December 25th isn't necessarily the man Jesus' birthday. It happens to be that the 25th or around that time, there are many legends and stories of gods that were born in the December 25th time. And it wasn't actually until the 4th century that it was proclaimed that Jesus' birthday was on the 25th. And it took until the 7th century to actually it took effect. Now I'm going to share with you a little bit about the 25th. See, the early Christians, they had no traditions or holidays of their own. So they borrowed or built upon the traditions and holidays already being celebrated in the earth-based religions of the pagans, which were just the peasants of the countryside. And the peasants or pagans were so resistant to this newness of tradition from the Christians that they basically, the priests started to call them devil worshipers, right? Because they're like, we need to have you learn and practice this new religion of Christianity. So virtually everything that we associate Christmas with predated Jesus. Holly, ivy, mistletoe, carols, Yule logs, tree branches, lighted trees, all were part of the northeastern European traditions, celebrating the birth of the god named Frey. This celebration was called Yule, so all the carols that we sing that reference to Yule are actually celebrating the birth of Frey. His birth story has a few versions. One is that Frey was the son of a virgin. Another is that Frey's father, the sun god, impregnated his own mother. The Christian tradition is a blend of these two stories in which a virgin is impregnated by God. There's also the Persian savior god, Mithras, whose religion was more popular and the primary competition for the budding Christianity for the first 4 centuries. And Mithras was born on, of course, December 25th of a virgin many, many years and centuries earlier than Jesus. Mithras' birth was in a cave, and it was attended by shepherds and the magi, which were the Persian priests of the time. It appears the stories were borrowed so that the new religion would have some way to compete with the flashier stories of Mithras. The Christians knew that Jesus was a God-realized being, and they needed to explain some reason to make it so. So using these familiar stories helped them to blend and take that energy. So here's the question. December 25th, are we celebrating the birth of Frey, the birth of Mithras, the birth of Jesus, or maybe the birth or return of the sun? Yes. Excellent! I'm so glad you knew that. It's true. It is yes, is the answer. So what we're actually celebrating, though, is something even more. We're celebrating the birth of the divine within you. And I call that birth an awakening awakening to the truth of who we are, to the Christ consciousness that lives within each and every one of us. The Christmas story isn't about Jesus. It's about me. It's about you. And what does this story and how does it relate? Stay tuned. We're going to get there. We all have within us this Christ presence. Jesus was a man who was the most realized of who and what he was. And he knew the metaphysical laws and how life works. And he was here to teach us. He's the great way shower and teacher. In Ernest Holmes' The Science of Mind text, he has a chapter, which is one of my all-time favorite chapters, called Finding the Christ. Because we're talking about the Christ. What is the Christ? He says, Christ is the embodiment of divine sonship, which has come with varying degrees and power to all people in all ages, to every person in some degree. We do believe that in the unique personage of Jesus, this Christ consciousness nature was more fully orbed than in any one that we have on record. We do believe that in the person of Jesus, more of the divine was realized, expressed as our teacher and example. We also believe that the Christ comes to everyone. There is no particular man or woman predestined to become the Christ. We must understand that Christ is not a person. Christ is not a person. Christ is a principle. It's an energy. It's an understanding. And I'll be sharing more about that in a bit. If we can look at Jesus from this viewpoint, we can see that he was and still is the great example. He wasn't the exception. He knew that as the human embodies the divine, we manifest with our understanding of who we are. He never thought of himself as different than others. He basically understood that we are the divine in expression. And what he said was, everything I can do, you can do, and even greater. But how many of us actually think that way, believe that way? We don't necessarily think that way. So all of you have known the biblical story of Jesus' birth, correct? Okay. So I'm going to give you another version, a metaphysical version of the birth of Jesus. Because the birth of Jesus, every element, every person, symbolizes, is a metaphor, is a symbol, some aspect of yourself. So I'm going to read this. This is by Reverend Linda McNamara, who wrote this, and I love it. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes as long as you don't fall asleep. Just kidding. You're not laughing. Okay, so this is the metaphysical story. It's your story. So as I share this, again, close your eyes and listen with new ears to this story and see how this is about you. And it comes to pass, as it must, at some time for all people, that there is sent out a decree from the heart that all the world of effects be examined. And all must go into his or her own city, where no one else may enter, the realm of the human mind, which is Bethlehem, crowded with random thoughts, confusion, and questions, where there had been no peace, no room to give birth to the Christ consciousness. But it is meant that your days should be accomplished, and so with Joseph as your inner strength, and Mary as your loving soul. You carry within yourself the infant of your Christ potential. You enter the den of Bethlehem, your busy life and mind, and seek shelter within, in the stable, in the center of your soul. Here in the center of your being, you give birth And now you bring forth your Christ potential. Your heart becomes the manger to hold and to nurture the power of truth born within you on this day. And there are in the same country of your mind shepherds, which represent your intuition and feeling nature. These shepherds keep watch over your thoughts through the darkness of the night of unknowing. And lo, you sense and feel a great lightness within as the angel of the Lord, which is your inner guide, speaks to you, saying, "But be not afraid of your intuition, for it speaks of great joy that shall be to all people. For into your consciousness this day is born your Christ consciousness, the divine within. And it is to be a sign unto you that forever you shall find this consciousness cradled within the very manger of your heart. Your intuition and multitude of feelings shall sing glory to the power of truth in your highest knowing. And on the earth of your daily affairs, you shall know peace, the peace that passes all understanding, and goodwill towards all beings. And when this inner guidance seems to leave you, and you enter again the busyness of Bethlehem as your mind and as your life, make haste. Make haste to seek the place of inner strength and the heart of love which abide within as your newly birthed Christ nature. And when Herod, that part of your ego which is opposed to the new and still clings to the old beliefs, hears these things, it may become troubled and seek to gather evidence that this Christ self does not exist. But you choose to follow the star, the light of truth within, and to come again to the stable, the center of your being, as love, as truth, as light. As the wise men, representing your inner wisdom, then acknowledges the truth that Christ conscious is alive within you, you offer the gifts you hold, knowing the truth that God is gold, the richness of life. God is frankincense, the beauty of life, and myrrh, the eternality of life. Know that whenever you sense your ego's fear, the Herod within, you no longer have to enter that realm, as you now reside in the consciousness as your Christ self. For when you have experienced the birth of the Christ within, there is no returning to your previous level of consciousness. And so it is. The word is consciousness. We speak of Christ consciousness. Would you like to know what Christ consciousness is, since you're giving birth to it?
Yes.
Yes? Anyone else? Yes? Because we're giving birth to the consciousness, but what is that? Well, I'm going to share with you what I believe this Christ consciousness, Christ nature is. The definition that I most love is that Christ consciousness is pure awareness infused with unconditional love and unreserved compassion. I'm going to break that down. Pure awareness. See, what is consciousness? It's awareness. Awareness. And we have various degrees of consciousness. We might be in our Herod consciousness, in that ego-based, it's about me consciousness, or we might be in that Christ consciousness, where we recognize something different. So, pure awareness. There's three things that the man named Jesus realized that we are here to realize as pure awareness. First of all, we are aware that the divine, spirit, whatever that you call this thing called life, is everywhere present. It's a vibration, it's an energy, it's in everything that is slowed down in physical form. It is speeded up in that which is invisible. It's in our emotions. It's everyone and everything. It's in our thoughts, our actions. There's no spot where God is not, where spirit is not. So the first thing Jesus was aware of is the divine is everywhere and everything, which leads us to the awareness number 2, and this is the key, is that I am the divine, I'm a God being, and so are you, and you, and you. And you in the cyber sanctuary, and you. However, how much have we embodied that realization? That I'm the divine, and so is everybody else. Now you might go, not that person, right? But here's the thing, we're all the divine in expression. We're either coming from the highest expression of the vibration of love, or when we're in our lower vibration, we don't know the truth of who we are, and so we're acting in ways that are not congruent with our true nature. So the understanding, again, is God is all there is, Spirit is all there is. And I am, and you are, and we are the divine in expression. And our job, our mission as Christ consciousness is to remember that every single day about ourselves, looking in the mirror going, I didn't know it, but I've heard you are the divine in expression. And to claim it. And then that person next to you is the divine in expression. Your neighbor, the politician, the person driving like a crazy person down the street. There's a divine expression who maybe has forgotten who they are. But our job is to remember. So you have those two. Next one that Jesus taught us was the metaphysical law that we are creators. We are always creating our life experience. Our realities are based on how we are perceiving and looking at something. And sometimes we have hidden beliefs that happened as a child. I've become aware of those, brought them to the light, and went, that's not necessarily true. But as a kid, I might have believed something. Excuse me. So, it's done unto us as we believe. Question, what do you believe? It is very important to look at what do you really believe. You might be conscious of something I believe, but is it necessarily true? There might be a subconscious belief that is blocking us from having a different experience. I always like to ask the spirit within, the God self, how can I see this differently? How can I see myself differently? When I ask that question, it opens it up. So, Christ consciousness is the pure awareness of spirit is all there is. We are one with the divine, and my thoughts are creating my reality. My beliefs are. Now, that pure awareness is infused with two things. It's infused with unconditional love. Breathe. Unconditional love for yourself, for your neighbor, for the person that drives you up the wall. It is unconditional love. My knowing that spirit is unconditional love, I aspire to be unconditionally loving to myself. The light and the dark, the high vibrational self and the low vibrational self. See, when anybody's in a low vibrational energy of themselves, it's just a call for love. It's the divine who has a need that's not being met. So unconditional love, and the third part is unreserved compassion. Replace that judgment, the judger. When you notice yourself judging, I notice it. It happens. We're trained in judgment. But what if I stopped and went, just stop? Every person is dealing with a burden of some sort. There isn't anyone who doesn't. And most of us have no idea what's going on behind the scenes of that person's life. When we have that awareness that There's a struggle going on, and I have no idea what's going on in that person's life. What has created that expression of the divine as them? Unreserved compassion for all beings. What would the world be like if we all rose up into that Christ consciousness as pure awareness infused with unconditional love and unreserved compassion? That's our mission. That's what's being birthed right here today. I'm going to share with you this writing that I really loved. It's by Reverend Deanne Ware Morency, and she wrote this in 2020. She said, "The Christmas story is more than an event from the distant past. It's a roadmap for the birth of the divine energy within you right now. How are you being called to birth a greater understanding of your Christ nature? How are you called to live as that powerful love for yourself and all? It's so easy sometimes to accept what has been for what will always be. We fall asleep. We fall asleep to life and dismiss or miss the call to transform, deepen, and grow. Each year, Christmas invites us to move through the darkness where we are sleeping and slumbering into the light of our true nature. Each year, we are given the opportunity to deepen and realign with their spiritual identity as the Christ nature. Ebenezer Scrooge, y'all know, in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, undergoes such a powerful rebirth in one miraculous night. He wakes up Christmas morning transformed. His heart, closed for so long, has rediscovered the power of love. The love of life, the love of possibility. Love that is generous and expects nothing in return. He is forever changed. His pledge, I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all year long, is an affirmation for us to a new way of being. Ebenezer intuitively knows that this pledge to honor Christmas, to be love in action, is a practice that he will be invited to choose again and again. Each Christmas, he and we have an opportunity to renew our pledge, to be compassion, to be love. When we allow ourselves to live the life of love, to express love, to be the place of love for others, we are living as the Christ being. We demonstrate what Jesus modeled for us. And in our yes, our sacred yes, you're invited to today, we discover that as we give, so do we receive. Kindness begets more kindness. Compassion begets more compassion. Caring begets more caring. Honor the Christ presence within you, in your heart this day, and keep choosing love every day. Every day is Christmas. Every day is an awakening. I'm going to close with a poem. Now, it's a poem story. How many of you have ever heard "'Twas the Night Before Christmas"? Anybody not? Well, Spirit wrote this through me a few years back. It's entitled, "'Twas the Night Before Consciousness." Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
'Twas the night before consciousness, when all through my mind not one thought was stirring. It was rather sublime. Open to the greatest good there possibly could be, I wondered, was there really a God self as me? All my feelings were also quietly asleep, while visions of great joy my intentions to reap. Both my left brain and right brain also joined in. Letting go of all thinking, we could finally begin. In the midst of the quiet arose a great shift. Inside I could feel my whole spirit lift. My inner vision opened. Something was new, yet it was still quite a mystery. I hadn't a clue. Then in the sky of my mind, there shone a great light, giving me great joy and delightful insight. Before me was a baby, so innocent and pure. This child was God. I knew this for sure. Yet something seemed strange. There was something more which I'd never seen or realized before. This child was me. And I knew as a fact that what I once knew as limitation and lack were simply ideas planted in my mind by others who had simply been blind. The traits of my God self I now truly knew as peace, love, and joy, and great freedom too. At that very moment, I released fear, doubt, and worry and doubt. I knew only gratitude, inside and out. Seeing the truth that God and I are one, I now realized I was God's daughter or son. Jesus was king to show us the way. He taught only love and how we ought pray. To become like a child, living in trust, releasing all fears is always a must. For heaven is now, it's right where we live. It's not about getting, it's about what we give. Jesus was the Savior, born long ago, not in a palace, but in a manger so low. The Savior is consciousness. It's in you and me. It's in knowing the truth that we're finally free. So let's open our hearts and open our minds. Let's all go within, where each of us shall find the gift of pure love, expansive and free. It's the gift of God's love, living as you and as me. Embrace the God, Christ child that you truly are, knowing in the darkest nights there is this bright, shining star. Look to this truth star, shining and bright. Know your divinity and your holy birthright. May we all live today as pure Christ consciousness, living as God's love. We're all truly blessed. And so it is, and so we are.